Yeah, that's exactly right. But you were born and raised in England.
Correct. Yeah. So I grew up over there, went to school there, and then hopped across the pond, and I've been in practice here ever since.
How does the healthcare system over there compare with our healthcare system over here?
Well, it's a very different system. Obviously, in the United Kingdom, like a lot of Europe, we have socialized healthcare.
Right.
So people over there don't need to worry about hospital bills. That must sound amazing to listeners in the United States, but it does come with drawbacks. You don't get a lot of choice. Waiting lists are very long. You won't get as many tests done and as fast as you can in the US. Here, obviously, we all know the problems with the United States healthcare system. It may be very good at treating acute issues very fast. If you have an emergency, go into the hospital, things can be fixed and you'll be seen very, very quickly. But of course, that comes at a huge cost.
Is it true, just one other question on the healthcare system overseas. Is it true that the waiting lists are really, really long?
Correct. In the United Kingdom, if you need, say, a knee replacement or a hip replacement, you could be waiting a year or more, depending on what part of the country you're in. And unlike here, where you will have a lot of choice, there's competition between different specialists, what surgeon, what medical doctor do you go to. In the UK, you kind of have to go to whoever you're assigned to.
Which, if someone forced you to choose, which system would you choose with all its benefits and all its drawbacks? Or would you
Yeah.
choose a hybrid of the two?
I think a hybrid would be a great idea. I actually did my medical school elective in Australia, and they have a great hybrid system, a mix of free healthcare for those who need it, and then private healthcare for those who can afford it. I would say, in all honesty, if I was a patient and I had an emergency, I'd want to be in the United States because the care here is phenomenal for emergencies. I think chronic issues, ongoing issues, and certainly we can talk about the influence of pharmaceutical companies, chronic diseases, etc., really fall behind in the United States. So, emergency US, chronic care, seeing regular doctors and trying to actually get cured of problems, I'm not sure I would want to be in the US.
Well, that's such a great point. It's okay. So I came across a post that you put on social media, and I was really taken with it because you said, and I'm going to quote you here. You said, I do everything possible to avoid healthcare interactions, particularly in the United States. I do not trust the system. I don't want to be plugged into the system. I think large segments of the system are a complete and utter scam to make money. I got to tell you, I think those thoughts are thoughts that have run through the minds of many, many Americans, especially over the last couple of years and perhaps even longer. But you put it very, very succinctly. And I am drawn to people who are very, very honest and are very, very succinct. So perhaps you can tell us a little bit about the impetus for those thoughts and those statements.
Good. Well, I'm glad that resonated with you. And I know that it resonated with lots of people, judging by the popularity of that tweet. I am obviously a doctor
Mm.
and I'm proud of what I do. I practice acute care medicine in the hospital when I'm not doing my outpatient lifestyle medicine, metabolic health work. And I think, as I've already said in this interview, that we deal with emergencies very well. People have sepsis or heart failure. Great. Of course, nobody's going to argue that you shouldn't be in a hospital getting fixed. The issue that I was really touching upon in that tweet was that the US healthcare system is completely profit driven.
Mm.
And we are under the influence of big corporations, primarily big pharmaceutical companies. I wouldn't say your average doctor is corrupt and goes into it with a corrupt mindset, but most doctors eventually get corrupted, even unknowingly, because we have a corrupted system that is entirely profit driven.
Mm.
You will go in, you will often have a battery of tests. Let's say you have a chronic issue, a lot of those tests won't be needed. The goal will be to put you on a pharmaceutical product, whether or not you really need that product. And there's no emphasis on really looking at root causes. So that's why I don't trust the system at all for ongoing care. I'll give you an example. I'll be very honest. You may have heard this in my video. I've been in the United States for 15 years. I've had excellent insurance the whole time. I would be covered. I refuse to register with a primary care doctor. I do not want to go. I don't want to be having tests. I obviously I'm in a privileged position. I'm a doctor myself, but I know what would happen once I get plugged into the system. I'd have these yearly physicals where the doctor barely looks me in the eye, where they're running through protocol questions, and there's no thought put into what does he really need? What does this patient really need to be healthy? What are they eating? Are they exercising? Are they stressed? Are they sleeping enough? All those pillars of wellness will never be addressed. We practice protocol medicine, and they may find something which is a bit out of the normal range, and then I'd be plugged in to go and see a specialist, possibly that I don't need, have more tests done, imaging scans, etc. Trust me, as someone who has worked in the US healthcare system, I know how it works, and I do not want to be a part of that. If and when the time comes that I need help, I'll certainly get that help. But until then, I will be as wise as possible. I'll do everything possible to take charge of my own health. I get my own blood tests done. I don't even use my insurance for blood tests, even though they would be covered. I get them done myself because I do not want to be plugged into the US healthcare system.
So the alternative then is what? Let's say a person goes out and gets their own blood test. How do they go about evaluating? I mean, is that information that's, and by the way, all the regular disclaimers will apply to our discussion here.
Of course. Yeah,
consult
absolutely.
your own medical professional, but we are exploring alternate ideas here, something that has been outright banned over the last couple of years. And so that's what we do here. Someone gets their own blood test. How do they go about evaluating those
great question.
results?
I did say in my video, I accept the fact that I'm a doctor and I'm in a unique position. Well, firstly, you will know from your blood test if anything is abnormal or not. It will be flagged up. And then you can find, hopefully, a doctor out of the system if you need to, if there's nothing urgent. There's lots of options available online, lots of medical professionals you can consult with. I mean, goodness me, nowadays people can do their own research as well. But of course, if you have blood tests done and there is something which is very abnormal, like your kidney function is up or your white cell count is high, you probably do need a medical evaluation with a regular physician. I was directing that post more towards ongoing care, preventive medicine, trying to stay well. I'm not arguing that if there's a serious abnormality that you wouldn't want to get checked out. But statistically, most people, especially those with no medical conditions, if they get routine blood tests done, very rarely is there something urgent found. Sometimes we will find something, but often we will not. So if all your blood tests are within normal range, that's usually reassuring enough.
You know, I have become fascinated with this issue in our medical system, where a cure for an ailment is never pursued or never discussed. I had a dermatological issue last year that I went to my doctor. My doctor is a lovely, lovely person. And I described this issue to her, and she prescribed some lotion or some steroid cream or something. And I used it and I got results. But if I stop using it within a day or two, this condition comes back. And so I was in a subsequent visit and I'm telling her this. I said, yeah, she says, you know, how is this working out for you? And I say, well, it's working out great. But the minute I stop it, it comes back. And she just said, yeah. And I said, well, am I supposed to go on using this forever? And she didn't say the word yes, but she basically said, yeah, this is it. And something about that struck me as rather odd. It never dawned on her. I don't know if it dawned on her or not, but it never entered our conversation that, wait a second, we need to explore something else, something that's going to bring this condition to an end. Can you speak to that?
I think you have hit upon a fantastic point there that I hope your listeners will take in. And this is my big beef with our current system, is that we do not address root causes. Doctors are not trained to look at root causes when we're in medical school. We have a system which is entirely set up, and this is a whole other story. We can go back to the turn of the last century when Flexner and Rockefeller got involved with medicine and wanted the solution to always be a pharmaceutical product so that they could make money, a pill for every ill. And we are not trained to address root causes. And I'll say yet again, you have an emergency, you can have things fixed. But for a lot of the problems out there, especially chronic problems, there is usually a root cause. And frequently in the United States, that root cause is in our lifestyle. It is often what we're eating. Most people, sadly, in the US, eat a horrible pro-inflammatory diet packed with ultra-processed foods and fake ingredients, and it's causing all sorts of problems. We have issues now that were unthinkable a couple of generations ago, and nobody's asking these questions. What are the root causes? Okay, so you have a digestive issue. The answer is not to write a prescription. What's causing it? You have headaches. What's a root cause before you jump to a medication? You have a bit of weakness in your leg. What's going on? Why don't we fix the root cause? And I liken our current philosophy, which most doctors nowadays are completely stuck in this mindset because they've been trained like this and then they get pulled into the system. It's like a roof that's leaking, and your mentality is to just put a bucket under the leak, wait for it, pick it when it fills up with water, put another bucket, but the entire roof is sagging, it's sagging, and slowly it will completely collapse. The ironic thing is, go back 100 plus years, go back even to the time of Hippocrates, 2,500 years ago, there was always a focus on root cause and addressing that. We've completely forgotten about that because pharmaceutical companies make billions of dollars from not addressing that. Why would they want to fix a problem? If a problem gets fixed, then you can't prescribe a medication. I'll give you an example from my own personal life. Within the last month, this happened to me. I developed a rash on my forehead. And it was really strange. I've never had the rash before. And my first thought, because it was bothering me, I thought, let me just see if a steroid cream works. And sure enough, the steroid cream improved the rash. And then I was talking with the people around me, and I was saying, well, there's something that's caused this. I believe that the human body is something which is magnificently designed. It's always in balance. Something has made me get this rash out of the blue. And I'm not just going to mindlessly take a steroid cream for days or weeks. So I racked my brains out, and believe, obviously I'm a doctor, and I'm thinking to myself, what's changed? Have I changed any detergent? No. Have I done anything different? And I thought, well, hold on a minute. There's something I've been doing a bit differently, is that I brought home from the UK last time I was there, a huge bag of cashews. And I love cashew nuts. And I've literally been eating, this was my main snack for a couple of weeks. I've been eating a ridiculous amount of cashew nuts. And I thought there's something going on there. I've never done this before. Could it be the cashew nuts that have done this to me? So I completely cut out the cashew nuts. People around me were saying, you're crazy. Cashew nuts don't cause a rash. Guess what happened? Within 3 days,
the rash went away.
Disappeared. How many people really do that when they get a chronic illness? What's going on? Why has my magnificently designed body got thrown off? There's some root cause there. And had I not known better, maybe I'd still be taking steroid cream and eating those delicious cashews. But that's an example I can give you from my personal life.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely brilliant. And your analogy is spot on. It's all about finding a bigger bucket. It's not about searching for the burst pipe that's somewhere behind the walls in your home. You talk about medical visits these days, doctor visits, and how you sit in the room and they barely make eye contact with you. You mentioned this a moment ago, and they're just checking boxes on their computer screen. And when I heard you say this, I laughed out loud, because that's every doctor's visit I had in the last 3 or 4 years. They're sitting there on their iPad and they're just rattling off the same set of questions, and they're checking as they go along. Tell us about the value in going beyond that and asking probing questions, like the questions you just mentioned. Are you eating anything differently? Has anything changed? Are you washing your sheets? Maybe that's why you have a rash on your face, etc.
Exactly. And this is the great tragedy of modern day medicine, is we've forgotten what it's really like. And it was only 20 or 30 years ago that we had that good old fashioned country doctor. Most of us grew up with something like that. I remember when I was young, we used to have this brilliant doctor who came to us with a bag to our home and would know the whole family. And it was just, it feels like a different age, but it wasn't that long ago. And we've truly lost something. And it is because the medical profession has completely surrendered to other entities. I completely blame doctors. Now, I'm in a fortunate situation where I do some creative things. I managed to get a working life, which fortunately takes me somewhat back to those good days. But I mean, the medical profession has done this to themselves. They've surrendered to big government. They've surrendered to big corporations. They've lost control of the profession. And as a result, they are being controlled. They're being told what questions they must ask. And I never have a computer or electronic device when I'm with a patient. With me, it's a good old fashioned way. Sit down, eye contact, tell me about yourself. You do most of the talking. I want to hear about you. This is what classic medical interaction should look like. And we've completely lost that. And I'm not blaming doctors individually, because what can you do? You're a new graduate in the United States. You're $700,000 in debt. You have to put your head down and work in the system. And this is what the system tells you to do. So you're not going to stand up to the system or ask questions. That's just what you do. You are trained to follow protocols. You're not trained to critically think, my goodness, haven't we seen that more than ever over the last 3 years of the pandemic, particularly? But this is the problem that we're now in. And that's why most people, and it pains me a great deal when I hear you tell me that that's been your experience. That a doctor, I mean, what could be more important than your doctor looking you in the eye? And they're not even capable of doing that now, because the entire profession has been destroyed. No wonder we've lost trust, sadly.
The point you just made a second ago, I think is a huge point, and I think it's not to be overlooked. So when young doctors graduate, when they finish their education and they enter the workforce, they are hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Medicine is maybe not the only, but one of certainly few professions that are going to afford them the opportunity to make such a living, to pay that debt off. What are the chances of a young doctor who is this much in debt rocking the boat and bucking the system and risking that profession? Slim to none, I would say.
Almost slim to none. I mean, you combine that with the fact that they've been trained throughout medical school to follow protocols, to not critically think. The entire system is set up in a hierarchical way. Doctors like me are extremely rare. I mean, you'll meet even some doctors who are in debt, who will raise concerns. They're just very brave people. But I think there's a problem in many professions, not just in medicine, but I just think it's more of a tragedy in medicine, because everybody expects a doctor to be honest and tell the truth, or so they should. But you have these young graduates basically in servitude. They know that they're going to put their head down, they're going to work in a lucrative career on paper, but it will enable them to pay off their debt quickly. They're not going to rock the boat. They're going to keep quiet, and the surrender of the profession will continue, sadly. And we're in this vicious circle. But I do think, I mean, I've talked about a lot of negative things in the few minutes we've been talking, but I think there's room for optimism. We are seeing some people break free. A lot of doctors now are going concierge and doing their own medical practice away from the system, away from the third parties. That's becoming a thing. And I think patients are fed up with the current system. I mean, how long before patients say enough is enough? This is ridiculous. We want to be treated like human beings, not like robots on a conveyor belt.
How do we economically incentivize seeking cures and getting better treatment rather than just prescribing medicine? Is there a way to do that inside the system, or do we have to kind of go outside the system and build an alternate one?
I think right now the answer lies by going outside of the system, the few people that are speaking out against it and trying to start movements. Hopefully one day this will become an economic issue, whereby governments have to do the right thing. I'll give you an example just from today. Ozempic, which I could talk for a long time about, the new miracle drug for weight loss. There's a lot of talk about on Capitol Hill, a lot of congressmen are insisting that Ozempic should be free for anyone who needs it. This is going to cost billions of dollars. We know what the obesity rate is. It will bankrupt the system if this actually happens. But think about it. You're creating customers for life, people taking these fake injections and continuing to eat completely the wrong food, which is throwing their hormonal system off, which is why they need to take the Ozempic in the first place. Ozempic comes with side effects in itself. If the government just said to people, supposing you spend what is it, couple of $1,000s on Ozempic per month. I can guarantee you that if the government had a program and said, listen, you're overweight or obese, if you can lose this much weight, we will pay you 1,000 a month. Everyone, 90% of people would do it.
Right. I
It's the
agree.
truth. So it's going to be a question of economics in the end.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. And this is another major topic that I'd like to spend a couple of minutes on: diet. Talk to us about the importance of diet to health. I think more than any other factor, this is the single largest contributor to your overall well-being or your overall illness.
Exactly. And I can sum it up in one word if you want the answer: grandmother. For most people out there, the answer lies, when it comes to diet, is doing what your grandmother did in terms of what she ate, or great grandmother. Because we have gone drastically wrong in the last 30, 40 years, and we've seen it reflected in soaring rates of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, other inflammatory diseases, because our diet has fallen off the wagon. And I actually have a hypothesis on this. We are one day going to look back at ultra-processed foods the same way we look back at cigarette smoking, when it was starting to become a thing, when every other person smoked in the 50s and 60s. People do not realize the damage that this is doing. The calorie model is broken. It's not about the calories, it's what's done to the food. And for your viewers who don't already know what ultra-processed food is, it's found in the United States in all of the middle aisles in grocery stores. Fake foods, read the labels. Once you get into the habit of it, you will not stop. And you will see a disastrous concoction of these fake ingredients, these preservatives, additives, food dyes. Sugars is a big one, fake sugars, which are added to food. And the more pure you eat, the more you avoid those middle aisles, go for the fresh food, ideally organic food. I know that's a cost issue for many people. You don't want it sprayed with pesticides, but the closer you get to nature, eat the simple foods that your grandparents and great-grandparents used to eat. Nowadays, statistics show that 70% of all calorie intake in the United States is ultra-processed foods. This is a disaster. Our bodies are not built for it. It throws our whole metabolic system into disarray. It damages our liver. It promotes obesity. See, 200 calories of spinach is not the same as 200 calories of a cereal bar. The cereal bar is what is going to make you sick, because you are simply not designed for it, and you never will be. And there will eventually be a gradual societal awakening, because this will eventually bring the country down. I mean, you just need to look around you to see the catastrophic effects it's having even now on children. But my biggest piece of advice is, if you want to dramatically transform your physical and mental health, do not underestimate what a stupendous difference it will make to your life if you commit to avoiding ultra-processed foods and seeing ultra-processed foods like sugar or crack cocaine. Sorry, not like sugar, like smoking or crack cocaine. Seriously, I'm that serious as to the damage they are doing to your health. And I've seen people who make the switch, and within 2 weeks, they cannot believe it. They're like, not only have I lost weight, I'm still eating good, but I'm eating natural food, but I'm more awake, I'm sleeping better at night. And it's for a reason. It's because all of that chronic inflammation that the modern system promotes has gone away. It's that simple. And it pains me that hundreds of millions of our fellow citizens don't know this, and they continue to consume this toxic, poisonous stuff every day, and they're giving it to their children.
I think that is so smart. Is it the sugar that does this, or is it the chemicals? Is it a combination of the two?
It's a combination. If I had to pick one item that was the worst, it would be sugar. And remember, nowadays, food corporations use hundreds of different names for sugar to hide whether it's sugar. They'll invent some name like something dextrin, syrup, etc. That would probably be the worst. But it's all of the chemicals in it, all of the preservatives. I recently did a video on BHA and BHT, many chemicals which are banned in Europe. Gums, other emulsifiers, just unnatural ingredients. And we cannot get away from the fact that our bodies are not built for it. So the answer lies with getting back to nature, and it always will. It will never change. We cannot consume what's not meant for us. Remember, a lot of these food additives were initially used in industry, petrochemical industry, rubbers, plastics, cosmetics. I mean, it's common sense. Why are we putting this into our gut, destroying our gut microbiome? That's another huge topic we could talk for hours about. But everybody right now has trillions of pathogens, trillions, not billions, in their gut. And those trillions of pathogens need to live in harmony with each other and with our body. And our diets completely destroy the gut microbiome. And there are links with, again, inflammation, with cancer, with mental health. I don't want anyone to underestimate the effect of chronic inflammation caused by bad food and depression, anxiety, other disorders, ADHD, etc. It's just a very destructive environment we are sadly in. And we're at this unique point in history where hundreds of millions of people are being slowly poisoned. And I don't use that word lightly, but they are. And nobody's doing anything about it. It's very frustrating. And I may seem passionate about it. That's because I am passionate about it.
Well, I mean, this is why I wanted to have you on, because you're one of, sadly, you're in the minority in the medical profession. A doctor who's speaking out and trying to kind of shake people awake. I have never heard that diet can affect your mental state.
Oh yes, one of the number one things that affects your mental health. I mean, think about it. Every cell in your body, every thought that you have, what's it powered by? What you eat. Where else is your energy going to come from? So junk in, junk out. Many psychiatric illnesses can be cured with the right diet, but we're not in a system right now. We have an establishment that is making huge sums of money. I mean, let's not underestimate this. Pharmaceutical products just for mental health, hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yes.
We're up against a Goliath, a mammoth here. They don't want people to fix things naturally. They want people on pills. It's a disgusting situation when you think about it. And I'm sad to say, I mean, I'm a naturalized US citizen. I think America has given a lot of good things to the world, but by golly, it's given a lot of bad things to the world. And this culture, firstly, of eating ultra-processed foods and prescriptions being the answer to ills, has all come from the United States. And sadly, it's spreading to other countries.
You speak about how you have peers in your profession who will secretly agree with you and say some of the same things in quiet, but won't step forward, or at least haven't yet stepped forward into the public domain. How prevalent are these opinions in your profession?
Oh, I have a number of doctors who come up to me, and I think most doctors are reasonable. People can get a false impression online. But still nowhere near enough. I think doctors are really focused on pharmaceutical products, curing society's ills. They are not focused on root causes. But I get a heartening number of doctors who do agree with me. Many don't. But yeah, a lot of people would just tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, I really liked it. I'm glad you said that. We didn't speak up, but that's also human nature. How many people really speak up? And doctors and the medical profession sadly have a terrible history of groupthink. I should make another video about this sometime. Really bad things have happened because of physician groupthink. I mean, I'm always hesitant to compare anything with Nazi Germany, but do you know when the Nazis came to power, one of the first groups of people that was totally buddy-buddy with them were the medical societies at the time, the doctors.
How do we go about building a network of doctors like yourself that people can turn to, some kind, maybe a governing body that can point people towards doctors like yourself? Is that something that's feasible?
I think it's very feasible. I think if you look online now, a lot of doctors are starting to think along those lines. I'm hoping we're only a couple of years away from something like that. I would gladly be a part of it. But slowly you are getting more whispers. I mean, you look at some conferences. I don't go to any of the big medical society conferences now, like the American Medical Association, American College of Physicians. I think they're totally and utterly corrupted and in the pockets of big pharma. But I think a lot of other societies out there, especially if you look at the lifestyle medicine societies, low carb societies, are full of doctors who know that basically everything comes down to what we're eating every day. And that should literally be the first question out of any doctor's mouth. I mean, you come in with a problem, tell me what you eat, because
Mm.
that's going to determine your whole internal organ setup. But we're just not trained to think about this. And I think give it 100, hopefully it'll be less, but in 100 years' time, people will look back and think, what the hell were those people doing? How were they missing what was right in front of them?
I totally agree with that. I think that's spot on. In the few minutes that we have left here, tell us about telemedicine and the impact that's having on the industry. Because if someone is clear across the country but wants to interact with someone like yourself, is that something that's possible? Do you do that? And just more broadly, how much easier has telemedicine made something like that?
Well, telemedicine has some advantages. I must say, I'm a big fan of the good old fashioned way of meeting face to face, but realistically, you can't meet every doctor you would want to face. They might be on the other side of the country. My outpatient practice, lifestyle medicine, health coaching. I obviously do a lot of virtual consultations. I just had one right before I was on this show, and I'm happy to coach so many patients and guide them along the same lines of things that we've been talking about, the right diet and elimination, anti-inflammatory diet to help them. But yeah, I would say telemedicine is a huge opportunity for people who are starting to wake up to find doctors like myself who are also health and lifestyle coaches and can really help them get to root causes of issues and not be on these medical therapeutics forever and ever that keep getting piled upon one on top of the other. So yeah, that I would say is one of the good things about telemedicine is that given the fact that people in my field are so rare, we can interact with people who want to tell us their story and get help by computers, virtual medicine.
Doctors like yourself are in short supply, Dr. Dan. I can attest to that. For people who are watching, if you could list out one or two or three action steps if they wanted to take charge of their health and their well-being, what would you suggest?
I would like to say that there are 5 pillars of health. So it's going to be more than 2 or 3, but I'll be very quick.
That's fine.
Number one, by a long way, as you can guess, I'm about to say, is what you eat. Commit
Mm.
to eating real whole food. Avoid the toxic, inflammatory foods which are all around you, the fake foods, the middle aisles of grocery stores. Commit to that first and foremost. Number two, be as active as possible. You need to move around more. Ideally, you can do some organized exercise. My rule is 1 hour a day. A lot of people find that impossible to even imagine, but it's only 4% of your day, and the benefits spill over to other things as well. Improved concentration, better sleep, more energy for the rest of the day, whole host of other benefits of exercise. Number three would be really work on any stress on your life. Stress wreaks havoc on your internal systems as well, having chronically elevated cortisol and adrenaline.
Mm.
Sleep enough. Sleep is when your body regenerates itself. Finally, personal life goals. Everybody has their own unique life goals, and many people I find, especially with the men out there, it's very important to have a mission in life that you focus on to keep you grounded and keep you focused forward, whether that mission is at work, whether it's with family. Have a good mission in life. Those would be my action steps. But first and foremost, without any doubt, eat real food.
I love when you say avoid the middle aisles. That's sadly that's where you find me most of the time. But but
Can
this
work
is
on that too.
that's exactly right. You know, Dr. Dhand, I want to thank you again for coming by. Courage is contagious, and so I want to thank you not just for coming by, but for speaking out. I think when if and when other doctors catch on and hear the type of things that you're saying, they're going to think to themselves invariably, hey, wait a second. I mean, if I believe this deep down inside, why am I not saying this out loud as well? So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let's hope for a better future.